Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the launch of the Youth Agrinity Festival 2021. Let us introduce ourselves. My name is Rifana Ziha, and with my partner is
Helena Akvintia Sekar Arum.
Then we would like to say Guten Morgen or Selamat Pagi to our speakers and maybe some participants from the Netherlands.
Dear Dr. Saskia Visser, Head of Program Circular and Climate Neutral Society, Wageningen University of Research, Netherlands. Dear Mr. Jos van Netherlands Agriculture Controller. Dear Mr. Lambert Grijns, Netherlands Ambassador. Dear Professor Dr. Arif Satria, the founder of IAAS Indonesia and the Rector of IPB University. Dear Dr. Randes Samsul Widodo, MA expert of Interagency Relations, Ministry of Rural Development and Transmigration, Republic of Indonesia. Unfortunately, due to several things, Pak Widodo, who planned to be with us here, cannot join us in presence. Instead, we have Mr. Ikadek Gandhi, an agro-sociopreneur and millennial farmer ambassador of the Indonesian Ministry of Agriculture, to represent the inspiring Indonesian young agripreneur. And lastly, our beloved participants.
It is such an honor to welcome all of you to the launch of the Youth Agrinity Festival in 2021. Youth Agrinity Festival 2021 is organized by IAAS Indonesia in collaboration with the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Anyway, Sekar, do you remember the previous World Day that we celebrate?
Let me remember first, Rifa. Is it World Food Day?
Exactly. As a student with an agriculture background, we would like to say Happy World Food Day and let's celebrate it together. As simple as finishing our food, finishing what we eat, and of course, to joining our Youth Agrinity Festival in 2021.
Okay, Rifa. The launch of Youth Agrinity Festival 2021 actually has 4 objectives. So let us take a look to the objectives. They are first, to offer the Indonesia young people an inspirational concept of circular agri-food introduced in the Netherlands in 2018. Second, to encourage young generation in the agricultural sector in Indonesia into transformative changes towards sustainable circular agri-food systems. Third, to applaud the young Indonesian agriculture enthusiasts, farmers and farm workers for making an effort to translate sustainable and circular agri-food systems into actions locally that will contribute to the environmental health. And lastly, to officially launch and start the competition of Youth Agrinity Festival 2021.
All right. So before we begin the event, we would like to inform you that there will be one session with one special invited speaker. During the event, there will be several rules that must be obeyed by the participants. And for the first one, the activity will begin at the 2:30 p.m. GMT +7. And we are so sorry because we are a bit late for every guest and also our participants. And second, the participants must change their name into name_institution. So we are waiting for it. And then for your microphone, participants, please turn it off. And then for the convention, participants are expected to turn on the camera and using our virtual background that our committee sent in the chat box. And then if you have any question, it is very welcome for you to ask it. You can just share it into our Slido and we will share it to our speaker later. And yeah, last but not least, of course, to fill in the attendance letter, to fill the attendance form in the link below. So guys, don't forget to fill it, okay? We are counting for it.
Okay, thank you, Rifa. So without any further ado, we are going to officially open the launching of Youth Agrinity Festival 2021 with the opening speech from Professor Arif Satria. So Professor Arif Satria, the time is yours.
Okay, so anyway, guys, please wait a minute. And yeah, so Sekar, Who is Professor Arif Satria? Do you know him more? Maybe you can explain it to us.
Okay, Rifa. So actually, Professor Arif Satria is the founder of IAAS Indonesia, and he is also the rector of IPB University. So he is so special, right?
Yeah, I see. Okay, then. So we are here as an IASer is because of him, because he is the
Yes.
founder of IAS Indonesia, isn't it?
Of course, if we
I
not
see.
if we not found the yes in Indonesia, I think there's no yes and will not gather in here today.
I see. That's so amazing then. And yeah, hopefully all of you also cannot wait to hear about his speech. And yeah, of course, also to get the spirit from him, because I believe that he have a lot of spirits for us today.
Of course, so let's wait for a minute due to several things. So actually, I believe everyone is not patient enough to listen to the speech of Professor Arif Satria, but we can wait for a couple minutes.
Okay, so maybe we can start his speech now.
Okay, so once again, for the Professor Arif Satria, the time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Yang saya hormati Duta Besar Netherlands di Indonesia dan juga National Director IAAS Indonesia beserta para pengurus dan hadirin sekalian yang berbahagia. Sungguh berbahagia pada siang hari ini saya bisa menyaksikan suatu kolaborasi yang luar biasa antara Kedutaan Besar Belanda yang ada di Jakarta yang bekerjasama dengan IAAS Indonesia. IAAS Indonesia adalah satu institusi, satu lembaga kemahasiswaan yang saya kira sangat penting hari ini. Karena apa? Karena memang ini adalah merupakan hub bagi mahasiswa pertanian dunia. Isu pangan adalah isu yang sangat penting, isu yang sangat sensitif, isu yang sangat strategis, dan ini harus dipecahkan secara kolaboratif antar negara. Oleh karena itu, kebiasaan kita untuk terus berkoordinasi, berkomunikasi dengan berbagai elemen di dunia ini menjadi satu hal yang sangat penting. Oleh karena itu, saya berharap bahwa kerjasama ini bisa terus digalang dan kita hadirkan inovasi-inovasi yang ada di Belanda. Karena sejauh yang kita ketahui, Belanda sangat-sangat progresif, sangat-sangat maju dalam pertanian 4.0, karena sekarang kita berada dalam revolusi industri 4.0, dan Belanda bisa menjadi salah satu rujukan bagi kita untuk bisa melakukan upaya percepatan transformasi pertanian kita ke arah pertanian 4.0. Dan mahasiswa yang bergabung di IAAS harus mulai berpikir tentang masa depan, harus mulai berpikir tentang future practice, hal-hal baru apa yang harus disiapkan di bidang pertanian agar kita benar-benar menjadi trendsetter perubahan. Dengan kita menjadi trendsetter perubahan, maka insya Allah kita yang ada di Indonesia ini akan maju, akan semakin disegani di dunia, dan kita ini benar-benar menjadi satu kekuatan dan pilar pertanian dunia. Sekali lagi selamat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Professor Arif Satria, for the very interesting speech.
All right, and the second speech, we have a speech from the Netherlands ambassador to Mr. Mr. Lambert Grijns. The time is yours.
Selamat siang, yang saya hormati Pak Profesor Arif Satria, Rector IPB Bogor. Goedemorgen, Dr. Saskia Visser of Wageningen University and Research. Pak Dr. Samsul Widodo, Special Advisor to the Minister of Village Development for Interagency Affairs. Bapak Ibu sekalian, officials of the Indonesian government, academics, NGOs, students, young Indonesian farmers, selamat siang. And selamat datang di peluncuran Festival Anak Muda, the Youth Agrinity Festival. Now, a long time ago, Presiden Soekarno, he once said, beri saya 10 anak muda, maka akan saya ubah dunia. So give me 10 young people and I will change the world. This statement is so strong and so compelling, and it shows the value of youth. and it is coming from the first president of Indonesia, Bapak Soekarno. So, how do you feel today, dear young farmers and agriculture students? Do you see the same old stories and challenges in agriculture practices, or do you believe it's time to change, to be more innovative in order to maximize what Earth has to offer? I think altogether we wish to keep natural resources in the chain for a longer time, to prevent waste and hazardous emissions to soil and to water and to air as much as possible. And you all have the opportunity to be creative and innovative and commercial oriented. So here at the Netherlands Embassy, we are very inspired by the growing number of inventions of Indonesian students and young people that create technology to reduce the post-harvest losses or to minimize food waste or food surpluses in the restaurants or wedding parties, professional gatherings. Now, some of you, young people, work with a natural way of decomposing waste using natural solutions called black soldier flies. That way they break down the food waste, which is one of the most serious problems in our life at a global level. So, Bapak dan Ibu, teman-teman generasi muda sekalian, agriculture plays a significant role in achieving global food and nutrition security. And it increases economic growth and it realizes sustainability. Agriculture is the world's largest provider of jobs, employing over 1.3 billion people globally, or around 40% of the global workforce. And so, young agriculture fellows, I would like to stop here, invite you, saying that aligned with the celebration of World Food Today, it is time for us to continuously think and rethink how we all will continue to grow, share and consume our food sustainably. And with the pandemic, global agriculture is facing even more critical challenges. And that is how to feed a growing population while keeping its footprint within planetary boundaries. So as part of our contribution to tackling the global challenges, in 2018, our Netherlands Minister of Agriculture, Nature and Food Quality of the Netherlands launched the vision of circular agriculture. And that vision for future agriculture responds to the need of an adequate supply of affordable and responsibly produced food at a national and global level with the least possible impact on nature, on environment, on climate, and I shall repeat, food production in harmony with the nature around us. And I'm very sure we can all do this together. And I would like you to be confident we can do it as well. So for the earth we are living in, for the lives of the future generation. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Lambert Grijns, for the speech. And I'm so speechless because he can speak Bahasa Indonesia. And I'm sorry because I cannot speak well for your name. But yeah, once again, thank you so much.
Okay, and now we continue with the third speech by the Millennial Farmer Ambassador of the Indonesian Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Ikade Gandhi. Mr. Ikade Gandhi, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Does my voice sound clear?
It's clear, Kak.
Okay, let me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam nama budaya, salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me in this opportunity to welcome all of these webinar participants by first praying our gratitude and praise to the Almighty God for all of His blessings, grace, and mercies that have made us possible to gather here in this event in excellent condition and health. Dear keynote speaker, the Excellencies, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Indonesia, Lambert Grijns, the Netherlands Agriculture Counselor, Jos van Hume, and the Head of Program Circular and Climate Neutral Society, Wageningen University and Research, Dr. Saskia Visser, distinguished guests and participants of the Kick-Off Youth Agrinity Festival with topic on Youth Action Through Circular Agri-Food Approach. IAAS Indonesia is very pleased to host this webinar. Moreover, this event is supported by Dutch Embassy in Indonesia. The Youth Agrinity Festival belongs to the YAF series with the aims to raise Indonesia youth enthusiasm and interest in sustainable agriculture, particularly in circular agri-food concept by offering the Indonesia young people an inspirational entry point to advocate, to promote, and celebrate the transformative changes towards sustainable and circular agri-food systems in Indonesia. Raising awareness and understanding of Indonesia young generation about the circular agriculture, and raising the value of young Indonesia farmers for making an effort to translate sustainable and circular agri-food systems into actions locally that will build a better world. In this event, there will be some competitions such as essay, infographic, and video with targeted participants are youth from 15 until 30 years old. This is a great chance for the young generation to show their ability and take action to contribute to society with the concept of circular agri-food. While most of the world's food is produced by aging smallholder farmers in developing countries, older farmers are less likely to adopt the new technologies needed to sustainably increase agriculture productivity and ultimately feed the growing world population while protecting the environment. Hence, we need to re-engage youth action in agriculture. Can this be done? Yes, of course we can. Participating in competitions to express ideas about implementing circular agri-food is a very good thing to hone our creativity to re-engage youth in agriculture. The future of food production is an urgent issue, and now we are facing it, and it is our responsibility to build awareness and take action about sustainability by delivering improvements in efficiency and resourcing productivity. Sustainable is the keyword in agriculture and environment management to ensure global food security and maintain high quality of human life. The sustainability concepts of agriculture in global scope by implementing a circular agri-food as an efficient system for food production. Together with the public and private sectors, non-governmental and intergovernmental organizations, especially youth as an agent of change, are responsible to build a better life and society through the comprehension of circular agri-food to convert resources into products without compromising the future generations to cope with their needs of food. On the other hand, decades of productivity in the agricultural sector have led to pressure on the living environment that at the expense of water and soil quality, biodiversity, ecosystem, services, and the climate. We should be clearly aware of this challenge to prevent further depletion and overexploitation of the Earth's resources. A system change is necessary. We need a method that is possible by farming in harmony with natural cycles to show us the enormous resilience and self-healing potential of nature. Instead of focusing solely on reducing the cost of production, we need to shift our mind to set reducing the use of raw materials through more efficient use within the cycles. Therefore, the circular agri-food is the answer to achieve availability, price stability, and sustainability of food production while maintaining productivity and sustainability of agricultural natural resources. In accordance with the vision and mission of IAAS Indonesia, that is to make agriculture sexy in the eyes of the young generation in Indonesia, this event is one among many efforts to make this vision and mission come true. It is part of our concern for agricultural youth development and as a real contribution for agriculture to enhance nation productivity and welfare in Indonesia. Hopefully, we all can significantly give more contributions as youth to the nation's advancements in the not too distant future. To all of our distinguished guests and participants, I hope that these webinars and competitions can help development practitioners, youth leaders, youth associations, millennials, can provide insight and ideas about agricultural solutions with circular agri-food concepts that may be adapted to their own context. As a millennial farmer ambassador of the Indonesian Ministry of Agriculture, I really support this activity to run well. Thank you for being here and please enjoy the event. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam Namo Buddhaya, salam sejahtera, Om Santi 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 Om. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ikadek Gandhi, for the very interesting speech. So, Rifa, actually, I totally agree with the previous statement of Mr. Ikadek Gandhi. He said that we need to spread awareness for the youth of the agricultural. So, what do you think about this?
Yeah. Actually, for me, for sure, I also totally agree with his speech before. And yeah, I guess most of us come from agricultural backgrounds, so you guys also should be agree with us, isn't it?
Okay, and hopefully these events can also enhance the awareness and spread the awareness also for the youngster, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, to make this Youth Agrinity Festival 2021 official, we invite Mr. Ikadek Gandhi, Dr. Saskia Visser, and Mr. Joost van to launch it together. So please, Mr. Ikadek Gandhi, Dr. Saskia Visser, and Mr. Joost van to put your hand on your camera so it looks like you press the button on your screen.
All right, so I guess three of them ready now? And we will count it together. So, in 3, 2, and 1. And we officially started the Youth Agrinity Festival 2021. Thank you so much, Mr. Ikadek Gandhi, Dr. Saskia Visser, and also Mr. Joost van for officially started the Youth Agrinity Festival 2021. We also want to announce to you all that the Youth Agrinity Festival 2021 have a video promotion. So for you guys, for the participants, you can also share it into our social media, into your social media. But anyway, Sekar, how can I find the video?
Okay, Rifa. So actually, you can find the link that our committee has sent on the chat box. So it is a Google Drive link, and on the Google Drive, actually, you can find the video. You can download it, and we also want all of you here to share the video on your social media, either Instagram story or other platform that you have, to spread the spirit of this year's Youth Agrinity Festival. And if you want to know more about the series of this Youth Agrinity Festival 2021, you can also check on IAAS Indonesia Instagram on @IAAS_Indonesia.
All right, I see that. Thank you so much, Sekar, for your information. And anyway, what is the next activity that we are going to do?
Okay, Rifa. So we're going to hear the explanation about a circular agri-food system by Dr. Saskia Visser. But firstly, let me introduce you to the speaker from her CV.
All right.
Okay, this is the CV of Dr. Saskia Visser. So Dr. Saskia Visser is a program director of the Knowledge Development Program, Circular and Climate Neutral Society in the Wageningen University and Research, the Netherlands. So she's working on the theory of transition management for the large-scale implementation of circular and climate neutral solution. And also since 2020, she is co-managing the European Joint Program on Agricultural Soils under Climate Change in close collaboration with INRI. Wow, such a very magnificent CV, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I believe all of you cannot wait for the presentation from her. So Dr. Saskia Visser, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you very much for this wonderful introduction. Yes, I'm very, very pleased to be able to come here and to share some of the work that we are doing in the Netherlands regarding circular agriculture. I'm trying to share my screen such that I won't see too many, that you won't be bothered too much by the chats. Like I said, I'm a program manager on circular agriculture, so I'm committing research to stimulate this transition towards more circular agriculture. So what I'm doing is I work together with a lot of scientists on how to implement this in the Netherlands, and discussing with farmers what are their barriers, what are their opportunities. And I very much agree with all what has been said, that really the youth holds a lot of power to facilitate, to innovate, to change the whole agricultural system towards a more sustainable part. So I have a presentation in there. If you have questions, make sure to put them in the chat. I will try to answer them also later on in the chat, if whatever we cannot say. If there are things that really are not understood, maybe the host can interrupt me somewhere such that that I can easier explain while doing it. And further on, I will just go ahead until somebody stops me. Let's start with circular agriculture. Like what was said in 2018, our minister started launching the idea she was already aware that we should change our agricultural system in the Netherlands. And she says, okay, we need to connect agriculture, nature and food. Sorry, this is some machine in my kitchen. More valuable and more connected to each other, and make sure that we have a change. So she started presenting a vision, and while presenting the vision, she didn't really yet know what it looked like exactly. And after that, she started with a plan of action. Okay, what are the first steps to move from the current agriculture system towards a more sustainable circular system? And that's where she says, okay, policy, we're really going to commit to build a solid economic base for producers, commit to developing knowledge and innovation, thinking about, okay, what is the balances between agriculture and nature? Make sure that in the Netherlands we maintain our international position, make sure that food is really valuable and also recognized as a valuable thing and not being thrown away in the source of food waste. So there are a lot of policy efforts going on, making creating a climate that allows for a change to happen in the Netherlands. But let's first start saying, okay, what is circular agriculture? I hope, you see it. Circular agriculture really starts with biomass, because we as people need biomass for our food. The food we eat is biomass, and also for non-food production, because the clothes we wear, electricity, papers, plastics are all based on biomass. And this biomass is being produced in our natural waters, on our arable land, on our grassland, and our forest. And this is really the first principle of circular agriculture system, is to make sure that we use the land that we have available to produce food for human, because that's the most efficient way. So, and while we're producing this food for human, and this is really important, a very important first principle, because in the Netherlands we still use a large amount of our arable land also to produce feed for our animals. But whilst producing this food, all kinds of side streams occur. And these side streams have to come back into the agricultural system, either directly to the soil, but or through the animals that we have. And I just heard these examples of the insects. To make sure that the animals then, and that's the position of the animals in the circular system, is to produce, to consume the side flows and to transform them in proteins to be eaten by humans, and into manure to improve the land. Well, and then obviously still also a lot of our land is needed to produce biomass for our non-food production. So there is a very clear linkage between the food production and also the biomass production for non-food, for our clothes, for our papers, and so on. And then building this system, then we have to really rethink, how do we do it safely? Even if we go to bring back the human excreta also in the systems, how do we do it safe? How do we make sure that our animals, if they are eating the side streams, are still being treated well and sufficiently fed? How do we make a good balance between what we produce on our arable land for our food and for our non-food, because they are both equally important, especially if we go to phase out the use of all fossils, which, for instance, currently our clothes and plastics are having a lot of information. We are working on this in Wageningen, and then we are really thinking and considering the planetary boundaries as the boundary system. And today I will give you some examples from different parts. So I give you some idea of open cultivation, how it looks like. I give you some of the latest insights into insect production. I give you an example of circular agriculture and how we applied it for the very poorest people in Ethiopia. And I end with some ideas, okay, what are in the Netherlands some of the barriers or obstacles to transition towards circular agriculture and how we can deal with it. Well, if we start thinking about the principles of circular agriculture and look at the open cultivation system, then you can start thinking, okay, what would my future system look like? If we need to have nature inclusive cropping systems, we have to reconsider the use of our fossil-based fertilizer and try to minimize it. If we really want to minimize the use of pesticides and optimal the use of arable land for food. Well, if these are the system requirements, then you can come with a new response. And then you start thinking like, okay, we may go for crops that grow in strips because that improve the agricultural biodiversity. And we may think about different types of crops because we want to think about, well, double purpose or multi-purpose crops in rotations, crops that do not only produce sufficient food, but maybe also produce biomass that can be used for another purpose, either storing carbon in the soil or maybe using some of the straws for other purpose, for your roofs or for your bio-based economy. And think what could be the good rotations. And therefore we need robust crop rotations with healthy plants and healthy soils. And if you start thinking about these examples in the Netherlands, we are thinking like, okay, well, if these are the boundary conditions, actually we already do have a lot of building blocks in there. We know something about landscapes elements in it. We know something about green manure. We know about deep rooting crops. We do have a lot of technology on robots or apps or even drones or machinery to help us to improve our systems. And we know about rotation. So what if we bring all these building blocks together into a new system? And that's where you come from a monocultural system, which we have in the Netherlands, towards, well, a strip cropping system or even a strip cropping system including nature elements. And then, well, first of all, if you want to introduce such a system, what is important to know, will it produce sufficient such that the farmer can make a living out of it? And that's why we have introduced the land equivalent ratio, so that which is the sum of the relative yields. And because if you have a field with a monocrop, and then it's very hard to compare it with a field with two crops or something like it. And if the land equivalent ratio is above 1, that means that the harvest from this mixed crop production is higher compared to the harvest which comes from a single crop system. And you see that we have tried that in several intercropping systems, and you see that the total yield, the land equivalent ratio, is higher compared to the monocropping systems. And that's interesting, because that says that, okay, there is an economic foundation to start thinking about this multiple cropping systems. It could also mean that you have some land area available for nature elements. And this is what it looks like in the Netherlands. Compared, in the back, you see this monocropping system, and this is the strip cropping system. And this is really an interesting system, because it works partly because you have two different strips. And if you look at the rooting depths of these two different crops, the wheat and maize strips, you see the rooting depth is quite different, which makes sense. And it is also clear that they benefit more from it, because they find the sourcing materials, the nutrients, at a different level. So they make more optimal use of the nutrients that are available in the soils, and therefore, the mix is better, and there is no competition between those two strips. What is interesting is that also the birds find it interesting. So you see a lot of return of different bird species in the strip cultivation area. This is the strip cultivation area, and one of the main reasons that these birds come back is because there are insects coming back, and so the feed is available. This feed will not turn into a plague, because the area is simply not big enough. What is in the Netherlands one of the largest problems, or the largest challenges to really introduce this strip cropping system on a large scale, is the amount of labor it requires. Farmers simply do not have the time to work on all these strips, because it costs more labor. And that's why we count very much on robotization. So we are designing robots to help us manage our lands. We're not ready in it yet. Then let's move to insects. I just heard the example, and I agree that really insects are going to play a key role in circular agriculture. If you look at insects, they are very good in transforming all kinds of side flows either into feed or into food. And what is interesting is what is remaining behind, the frass, could even be a good soil improving systems. However, there are also some thoughts, some additional thoughts. Okay, some research that we need to explore. Like, okay, how safe is it? Can we use it? And what type of side flows do they grow well on? And we have done that research. And also there are some risks aligned in hazards. So if you bring food as a side flow, okay, what are the possible hazards in that area? And if you move from the insects to feed, what are the possible accumulations of antibiotics or heavy metals or whatsoever? And also, if you bring the frass to the soil, what are the risks in there? And if you bring it to human food, that you have to make sure that you have some good quality checks. So let's start with some of the results. What we have done, we have tested the growth of black soldier fly, indeed, on different types of side flows. So we looked at a control, an organic wet fraction on kitchen rests, mushroom foods, manure and road trips. And what we found that the catering waste, specifically the McDonald's food waste, was a very good substrate for black soldier fly production. And the most of the catering and food waste could be really turned into insect biomass with very little remaining for us. So very high efficiently in using the biomass for, well, insect production. If you start thinking about the safety part, what we have seen is that we have an accumulation of cadmium in larvae if they are reared from manure and from roadside grasses, from mushroom feeds and from the organic wet fraction. So this is an important element to look at to avoid, you know, the risks in the consumption of these black soldier flies. What you see, heavy metals, if they are in the organic wet fraction of the manure that you have, you will also find it in the larvae. So this really limits the use of the larvae, but it clears the heavy metals from the organic wet fraction, so it leaves a good substrate for soil improvement, for instance. What is also interesting is that acrylamide that was found in the catering and food waste was not found in the larvae. So it's a cleaning procedure to make the proteins available. If you look at the overall potential of streams from food processing, from retail and catering, and if you use that for black soldier fly production, it yields a protein yield of 20 to 30 kiloton of proteins. And that's if you, well, in the Netherlands, we mostly look at using it for feed for animals. That could replace typically 50 to 75 kiloton soybeans. So it's a very interesting, because you can produce from the biomass that you have locally, and that avoids soybean we typically import from far away, and that avoids the imports of soybeans. So this is a very good circular solution with a high potential. It's not so far very largely taken up in the Netherlands as a real production system. And I think that the future will do so. Well, I've given you some examples of what's going on in the Netherlands, but well, why should it only be working in the Netherlands? I am currently dealing with thinking about implementing circular agriculture systems in the USA, in Argentina, but we started already 2 or 3 years ago, also in Ethiopia, and thinking about how can we apply circular agriculture concepts really for the poorest people in Ethiopia. And my colleagues Remco Vonk and Amede Tewodros were the one executing this project. Smallholders in Ethiopia are really no, not all smallholders. The smallholders that we consider in this project are really among the poorest smallholder farmers, and they do not get the extension that is been set up as a national system. It works. That extension system generally works to the wealthier farmers, so the model farmers, and tends to overlook the poorest farmers. So we set out a quest to find, okay, what are the interventions that we can deal with for these poorest farmers? How can we increase the productivity, even though these farmers do not have the means or the investment capacity that other people have? But these people are very vulnerable for climate resilience. They have to deal with risk management, and they really have to make the optimal use of the small piece of land they have to make sure that they will get a living. Because currently the farmers that we have been working with were at that time well, not food sufficient, so they had sufficient food for like 4 months a year. So what we did, we were thinking about, okay, how can what are the cropping systems that we need to do? We needed to think about, okay, how can we, on one hand, intensify agriculture on a sustainable manner, and what are the solutions that we need to look at? And we were thinking about, okay, if you have these circular systems, then intercropping or multiple cropping or relay cropping are very interesting solutions, because they lead not only to a more efficient use of the nutrients that are in the soil, like I showed in my previous example. They also lead to the possibility of having more than one crop in a season. So it's very interesting for these farmers to take this up. However, key of success for these technologies are good seed, so you need to have the seed available, and very good soil fertility management. In Ethiopia, soil fertility management typically requires fertilizer, but fertilizer in Ethiopia was by law sold in 50 kilogram bags, which is way too large for these small plots of these farmers. So we have been working in this project with the Ministry of Agriculture to think about changing the law to be able to reduce the packaging of fertilizer. And we have been working on previous Wageningen research projects and thinking about, okay, how can we replace fertilizer by compost? And how should we develop and design the compost? And that's where we came with an approach that we have a fertilizer and seed packages to downsize it to only 0.25 hectare, which was the average size of the farmers' fields. Which is generally in America called 1 timat. And then thinking about, okay, how can we combine seed, fertilizer, and compost? And that was the 1 timat package that we presented. First, showing this showing the picture to the right. Showing the picture to the right. This is a discussion that we had with the farmers. Okay, why do you not yet use compost? And then they said, okay, compost in Ethiopia, we also always have to do it in pits. And composting in pits is a very hard labor for these farmers. So we said, okay, instead of in pits, let's do it in bunks, like this farmer is presenting here. This is also something like, okay, in Ethiopia, we are not totally following the law or the way it should be done, but let's try it in a different way. And this way of working really developed a good quality compost, but also significantly reduced the efforts. Then the repackaging of the fertilizer, which was a very large barrier so far for the smallholder farmers. And then if you see, okay, we have been reaching 40,000 farmers in Ethiopia. And if you see what you can reach, here you see the baseline yield, and then the on-farm productivity using this 1 timat package. And this is the percentage of gain that you can use. And you can see that in all cases, we managed to increase the yield by over 100%. So you see, for instance, between the early maturing sorghum and the late maturing sorghum, you see an yield increase from 130 or almost 1,000%. Increase. The faba bean, almost 400% increase. So it's really successful as an approach to increase the yield. Then you have to start thinking about, okay, what are the good combinations? So why did not all farmers go, for instance, to the late maturing sorghum? Well, if you apply late maturing sorghum, you do not have the opportunity to grow another crop after that. And having multiple crops is a very important strategy for these farmers, for research security, for risk avoidance. So this is a very important, this is a reason. So the 1 timat package has been officially approved now by the Ethiopian Ministry of Agriculture, and it will soon be mainstreamed. It's a regenerative approach or circular approach that also considers the limiting purchasing power of poor, and it increases the land use efficiency because you have these multiple crops. And it really made a significant difference. If you start thinking about finding a new cropping system, you always have to think about, okay, what is the local situation? What is the purchasing power? What are the risks they are dealing with? What is really needed for the system to move forward? Like in the Netherlands, we say, okay, we really want to significantly reduce the availability or the use of fertilizer. In this system, you will always need to use fertilizer alongside to compost, because the soils are not that rich at this moment. The choice of crop varieties, the length of the growing season, water requirements, fertilizer response are all very important elements to include into your story. So what are the next steps now to do? So we have, one of the first steps is to do a validating study for this composting also in other regions, composting strategy also in other regions, to allow the Ethiopian government to change also their regulations for composting strategies. We are working on a project for scaling and preparation of institutionalization to make sure that this one TMAT approach really is going to become institutionalized in the whole area. And then uptake by the PSNP program, which is currently supporting 6 million undernourished farmers and farmers that are not food secure in Ethiopia. This approach, thinking about institutionalization, scaling, and the collaboration that you need to have with government, is also something that we see in the Netherlands. Because changing an agricultural system is not an easy thing to do. It's a nice thing to do. It gives you energy. It gives you ideas, but it's also well, you will find barriers on your way. And what we have done in the Netherlands, we have been looking at, okay, how easy is it actually to go to the transition? So we identified pioneering farms that are already applying some circular principles. We looked for realistic measures for circular farms, and we are thinking about transition of stakeholders and policy.
Okay, Dr. Saskia, I'm so sorry. Your presentation is very great, but we are running out of time. So hopefully you can finish your presentation as soon as possible.
Yeah, this is the last slide.
Okay.
So,
please.
Okay, so transition recommendations beyond the pioneers. Well, I think the overall message in here is that you need to be, if you want to change the whole system, you need to be in constant dialogue, and should be an interaction with science, with farmers and policy to be able to move to the systems. And one of the opportunities that there is to get into a dialogue is to attend the Circular at Work conference that we will be organizing from 6 to 8 December. And I was in a discussion with Anna last week, and we agreed that we add additionally to the prize winners of this challenge that you will have 3 times the possibility to attend the Circular at Work conference, where people can see it. It will be a hybrid event, so partly online, where people can experience, follow master classes, and see the latest innovations that we have in circular agriculture. And that was my last slide.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Saskia Visser. What an interesting presentation. I believe everyone in here are very happy, including me, because there's a lot that we can gain from your presentation. And actually, what is shocking for me is the circular agriculture idea is actually helping many countries, such as Ethiopia, like you previously said, from many of problems. So hopefully the idea of circular agriculture in Indonesia can be developed greatly. So it can be great for the agriculture system for Indonesia itself. Okay, Dr. Saskia, once again, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. And I'm so sorry for cut your presentation because the time is not really enough. So we're going to move to the next agenda. So what is the next agenda, Rifa?
All right. again, thank you so much, Dr. Saskia Visser, for your explanation. And yeah, after the explanation from our amazing speaker, I believe every one of you has many questions in your mind. So again, for you who have any question, just share it into the Slido and we will share it here to Dr. Saskia. Anyway, for the first question we have from Anonymous. So he don't want to show his name. We are so sorry, Dr. Saskia, but hopefully it will be clear for you. So he is asking like, can you share us what is the struggle part when implementing circular agri-food in farmers? Because Indonesia farmers is look conservative than in the farmers in the Netherlands. Thank you, Dr. Saskia. You can.
Yeah, I didn't completely hear what you were saying, but what could be the struggle for farmers to do it? Obviously, well, there is legislation, and the legislation in Indonesia is different from the legislation that we have in the Netherlands. But legislation could be a barrier to do so. Because conservatives look more conservative than the Dutch farmers. I don't think all Indonesian will be more conservative compared to the Dutch farmers. We have some very conservative farmers in the Netherlands as well. And you have these pioneers showcasing what is going on and being sure that you tell the stories of the pioneers, making sure that the news is spread about the possibility, about the capacity, and how it changes. That is a very important part of convincing other farmers to change. If you see the harvest is changing, if you see the income of a farmer is increasing because he uses, on the one hand, less inputs but has better seeds, for instance, and on the other hand has a higher harvest, then that is very, very helpful. Barriers are obviously legislation to move forward to, but also the culture and the farmers around you may avoid you to make this change. But dare to speak and have this community, to be proud of and to show what you can do, that really helps. Is that okay?
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Saskia, for the explanation. And I believe it is answering his question. So yeah. Anyway, Sekar, do we have another question?
Of course, Riva. So the second question comes from Dian Nugraha. So Dr. Saskia, actually Dian is asking about the circular agriculture in Netherlands. Is it related to fisheries such as large-scale hydroponics or minapadi? Okay, Dr. Saskia, you can answer it straightly.
Yeah, I think circular agriculture should change all agricultural production systems. So it's open cultivation, it's hydroponics, it's greenhouses, it's livestock. It's the whole agriculture system which needs to be considered and needs to interact and collaborate. So these hydroponics systems are great, they are efficient and they are good. And they may need to find new connections in the whole circular system to see, okay, whatever I harvest is one part to sell. The hydroponics relies very much on water availability. So what can the water be reused for? How efficiently can we do that? And could that be a part of a business model as well for these farmers?
Okay, is it enough, Doctor? Is it enough for the answer, Dr. Saskia?
Enough? Yeah. This is what my answer was. I hope I sufficiently answered the
okay.
question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Saskia, for the answer. Hopefully, your answer is answering Diane's question. So actually, we have another questions. Riva, please, you can read it.
Okay. And the last question comes from Nia Sapitri. So she's asking how to implement circular agri-food if in agriculture there is a crop failure due to pest or disease so that the agricultural products become rotten. Is it clear, Doctor?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
First, let's start with the principle, the more monocrop you have, the more sensible or sensitive the system is for a pest or a disease. Because, you know, an insect or a pest eats one plant or touches one plant and then can easily move to all the next plants. So having a diverse cropping systems, like in these rows or like in the intercropping systems that I showed in Ethiopia, really is already a very large reduction with pests and diseases. I do agree, however, if you have a pest that is risking you to lose your crops, you will need some pesticides and diseases. But you will see that if you have this more diverse cropping systems, that you will need less pests, and you can wait a little bit until the first notice, because you will be sure that because you have a strip, for instance, the next row avoids the pest or the disease to move to your next row. So because you have this mixed cropping system, the use of pesticides will be significantly reduced. And I think that's that's a starting system. I'm not saying that you can totally ban in a circular production systems all pesticides. Yeah. You may still need some, but I think you can reduce it by, I think, 75%.
Okay. I see. I got it actually from your answer. So, okay. So, we have another question. So for the committee, can we?
Okay. Oh, sorry. I was interested in implementation of one TMAT program. Could you explain more how could adding compost to fertilizer could increase the yield up to 100%, 1000%? Okay, indeed. The system that was at present was a very poor system. Farmers were using low quality seeds. They were not using any fertilizer at all, because they could not afford these 50-kilogram bags. So they, with having these smaller bags, these 10-kilogram bags, farmers could avoid it, and it made sense to apply it. So increasing the quality of seeds, increasing the availability of fertilizer, but still also acknowledging that you should not only use fertilizer, but also improve the soil organic matter content, so adding compost. So it's the combination of fertilizer, compost, and good quality of seeds that help to increase the yield up to 1000%. And actually, out of these 40,000 farmers, we managed to get 35,000 out of food aid. So they became food secure for the 3 years that the project ran. And I think that's a very promising solution.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Saskia, for the answer. So I believe that it is answering Hadi's question. And yeah, anyway, because the time is out, and yeah, we don't have more time for the question and answer session. And so thank you so much, Dr. Saskia, for your answer and your great explanation for us. And yeah, once again, participants, don't forget to fill the attendance form. You will find it from the committee by the link. And Sekar, anyway, do you have another kind of agenda?
Okay, of course, Rifa. Next, we are going to give a TOA for our very great speakers, because we really appreciate Dr. Saskia's attendance today. So the TOA will be given by Graciela Amaris as the National Director of IAAS Indonesia. So for Graciela Amaris, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, MC, for the time. Dr. Saskia, thank you so much for the great and fruitful presentation. Personally, I learned a lot of things and understand the concept about circular agri-food and the impact of circular agri-food for society, even economics too. I think our participants today feels the same. And once again, we want to say thank you so much for sharing and being here with us. Here, there is an appreciation from us to you, and I hope we can collaborate again in another moment and discuss together about circular agri-food. Thank you, Dr. Saskia.
Thank you very much. I was really happy to do so.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Graciela Amaris and Dr. Saskia Visser. So to commemorate this moment, let us take a picture first. And also we request Mr. Yus van if Mr. Yus van in this room, to open your camera to take photo together. And for the participants, if you do not have any problems with your connections, you can open your camera to take a picture together. I will guide for the taking picture. So please, for the participants who don't have problems with the connection, you can open your camera and let us take a picture together. Okay, we'll wait until several persons open their camera.
Yeah, so let's go, guys. We want to
Okay.
see your face, by the way, in this beautiful Saturday.
Okay, there's started a lot people who open their camera because we're going to take a picture together with Dr. Saskia Visser, who comes from Wageningen University in Netherlands.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, we're still waiting for you guys to open the camera. So we're going to take a picture together. Okay. I think because there's already a lot of people open their camera, I will guide for the taking of picture. I'll count for the first slide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, especially for Graciela Amaris and Dr. Saskia Visser. Thank you so much, Dr. Saskia Visser, for attending this launching of Youth Agrinity Festival 2021. Hopefully, we can meet in another occasion. So, Riva, what's the next agenda?
All right. So, yeah. Maybe once again, thank you so much, Dr. Visser, for your time, and we really appreciate it. And again, we hope to see you again in another time. So today's agenda is about to finish.
Okay, and thank you so much for our speaker that already shares the knowledge about agriculture with us.
And also for the participants with high enthusiasm in this launch of the Youth Agrinity Festival 2021.
We also want to remind you to share our event on your social media, and further information you can check on IAAS Indonesia Instagram on @IAAS_Indonesia, and also to join our next events such as the essay, infographic, and videography competition.
All right. And also, don't forget to fill the attendance form by the link in the chat box that's sent by the committee. So, Riva and
Sekar
sincerely say goodbye.
And we hope to see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saskia Visser.